Hello there everyone, I'm Fenrac, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Take 2 of episode 2? Yeah, I already tried to record this episode, actually almost a full week ago now, and my mic was on, and it picked up a lot of background noise, which of course was integrated into the audio itself, so the choice was either have a video with no audio, or a video with a bunch of background noise, and I didn't want either of those, so this is now take 2 of episode 2. As you can see, we already have a ship built from the last time when I tried to record this episode, a bunch of science-y thingamabobbers that we need to succeed in life, reaction wheels. Several of these parts are from mods, such as those solar panels, the orbital telescopes, and it's a pretty basic rocket. Solid rocket boosters, liquid fuel, first stage and second stage. With the science that I gained during my first recording of this episode, I was also able to get a little bit of science with which I bought a few new parts as well. So that'll be the LV909 Terrier engine coming into play. And I just realized, of course, that Jebediah has managed to sneak his way on board the Buck Mark I, and of course, we do not want Jebediah on board. We actually have a probe core piloting this, so we have the stability assist capability without having to have a pilot on board, so we're not bringing Jeb along this time. Bob Kerman shall be the first Kerbal ever to go into orbit of Kerbin. Quick save, and launch. Starting gravity turn right away. The one thing that I really don't like about solid rocket boosters is that they don't have any thrust vectoring capabilities, so it's always really hard to control them during your first stage unless you are actually using them as boosters and you have another main engine going, which usually I don't have any reason to do. Usually my rockets are small enough that I use them as the actual main engines for the first stage to get me up to speed of 500 meters per second or so, up to 10 kilometers altitude. And then I switch to my actual liquid fuel engine. So it's always hard to initiate the gravity turn that I need to do and make an efficient ascent profile into orbit. But we managed it this time, and now we have the LVT-44, I want to say? Either way, it's the one with thrust vectoring capability, which means that it can basically steer our spaceship that much better. Apoapsis already approaching, like, 5,000 meters. Yeah, I'm still having a pretty small video. There we go, 40,000 kilometers up. Not 40,000, 40 kilometers. Oh, we're only 3 minutes in this time. This is a new record. Already slipping up. About halfway through our very first stage, approaching 1 kilometer per second speed, and Bob looks honestly pretty bored. I don't know what he's thinking in there. Probably excited to see all the new science he can do in orbit of Kerbin. I really, really like the new textures. I figured out that it is hot rockets, and in case you didn't notice, our rocket did not catch on fire on the launch pad today. That is because I managed to find the mod that was causing that and uninstall it. You may have already noticed that I have several other new mods installed. Let's see. Final Frontier is one. Our Kerbals will start getting badges for accomplishments. You'll see that at the end of this mission. Ampere helps manage our electricity, gives us some reserve battery for our probes. ScanSat I already installed. Let's see. Halfway through the video, we'll finally get around to managing my Kerbal Engineer little HUD down at the bottom of the screen. That'll give us some very useful orbital information, like the amount of delta V we have on board, what biome we're in, that's already actually down there. Time to apoapsis height, that's already down there as well, but a little bit of customizing, make it a little bit bigger, that'll all help. We're almost out of Kerbin's atmosphere now, and only about 700 meters per second away from orbital speed. And 7, 8, 9, 10. We are officially out of Kerbin's atmosphere, and of course, I forgot to turn the music on, so there's none of that lovely space music by Kevin MacLeod to listen to today. But, whatever, I can make do with only my voice. Little LV909 Terrier engine. Gosh, I am very fond of the new engine textures, but I'm also very unused to them. That looks so weird to me, because I've played over 1,000 hours of KSP with the regular texture, and you may notice up in the top left of your screen something a little bit new. Huh, what is that? More on that later. So, approaching orbital velocity, almost there, getting speed pretty fast. Switching to mount view. Trajectories is another one of the most useful mods I have installed right now. That little red line shows where we'll re-enter the atmosphere and where exactly we'll land. It does a great job of approximating where we're going to land, accounting for cosine losses, all the stuff we'll lose from the atmosphere, I don't know. It's very useful. That's as much as I can say. Of course, once you get too high in the atmosphere, you may have noticed that it said, trajectory prediction stopped, too many iterations, yeah. This is a pretty view, the big red giant star orbiting off in the distance and the moon over our spacecraft's shoulder. And now that we're in a stable orbit, we're going to be getting ready to do a lot of science. Fun. Ooh, and it looks like Bob might be getting ready for an extravehicular activity. No. Gonna go to the day side first, warping really quick. Thinking about getting a checklist for things that I need to talk about to fill the empty space in these episodes, but you know, I'm a budding YouTuber, barely have anything to talk about yet. Commentating is hard. Started to say on the end of the next episode that commentating should be an Olympic sport, but I had to cut myself off. Angling our solar panels finally toward the sun, now that we're on the day side, so we can get that electricity flowing. Quick EVA report to collect the data from our S9001 Science Junior module, mystery goo containment units, all that juicy science that Bob loves. Oh, look at him, he's already smiling more. Need to remember to blow up the portraits next time, because they're just kind of small in the little corner of the episode. Drink of the day is, again, water. Do you notice a pattern yet? I do. I should probably drink more milk. Well, vegans would get mad at me. There we go. Bob doing another quick EVA to collect some more data. And reset some goo experiments. Gosh, I do apologize if I'm clearing my throat a lot. It's kind of strained right now. I won't go into detail. I'm a little bit sick, but not too worried about that. We keep going. I haven't done a video in quite a while, so I wanted to get this out there as soon as possible. And I have a full water bottle at my disposal, so I won't run out this time and get my voice all screwed up by the end of the episode. Telemetry, you might have noticed there was a telemetry report. I think that was one of the rebalancing mods, not SETI rebalance, that's one of the common ones. I think it was Science Revisited. And we also have some surface experiment package bits with us, so that Bob can set up and calibrate some experiments once we get back onto the surface. I actually did that last episode as well, but I wanted to show it to you guys again, so went ahead and, yeah. I am going to start making a habit of quick saving all of my stuff before I start an episode, so that if the footage gets corrupted or lost or in some other way, then I can actually revert to what was happening the previous episode, so that I don't have to fill in the gaps telling you guys how I got all this new science. It wasn't too interesting. I did actually go into orbit last time. So, you might have noticed that I realized I had a little bit of extra Delta V on board the spacecraft. So I thought, why not grab science from one more biome? So, I've decided to send Bob into high orbit above Kerbin. That'll be a little bit more science to get out of this mission. Frankly, if we had stayed in low orbit, there wouldn't be too much of a point to this mission, because I already grabbed all the science from low Kerbin orbit. Like I said, I did already get into orbit of Kerbin in my first filming of this episode, but of course, I lost that footage, so I'm having to do this again. Kerbin is very round indeed. All the little flat earthers on Kerbin will be very disappointed for these orbital pictures. So we're now high over Kerbin. Might have noticed I skipped a bit of video. Kerbin's magnetic field spans several planetary radii, protecting its atmosphere from the solar wind and cosmic radiation. Yeah, Kerbin is a lot like Earth. It has a magnetic field, it's rocky, pretty much the same. Telemetry analysis, you might have seen that again. Orbital telescope observations. The orbital telescope is another part of the D-Magic Orbital Science mod. You also may have noticed the magnetometer boom is not in the vanilla game. So that is also part of a mod. Just making sure we don't run out of electricity. I brought plenty of boards so we can pretty much transmit whatever we want from here. There's not an awful lot of ambient light here on the dark side of the planet. So I do apologize for that. It seems that whenever you want to actually record some good footage in KSP, it gets really dark really fast. Might see some of the little green lights blinking on my craft, but that's about it. Ooh, that's pretty. Not Jeb. Bob Kerman's little headlights lighting up the spacecraft. Again, the moon and that red giant star over his shoulder. Grabbing some more science. You might notice the X Science mod. Science Here and Now, whatever you want to call it. That's very useful. It's probably one of the cheatsier mods we have on board, because it allows us to see all of the science that's available to us at any point in time, but it makes sense that we would have it on board. It just helps us manage what kind of science we have. Transfer Window Planner is probably the most cheatsy mod. I don't know if it can automatically plan transfer windows for us, but then again, let's just imagine that all the little Kerbal scientists are already figuring all that out down on Kerbin. If you can say Kerbals are that smart, I don't know. But we're nearing our apoapsis. Not too much else happens on the dark side of the planet. A lot of darkness. But already planning our re-entry burn. We do have to be sure that we land somewhere on, well, out of the water. We have, of course, the surface experiments that we need to plant on the surface. Of course. And there, we have a trajectory that would land us where we wanted. But you might have noticed that that makes us go around the planet twice. I didn't quite realize that for a few seconds. But then I thought, oh wait, no, that's not quite far enough. Already well under orbital velocity, so we're guaranteed to fall back to Kerbin's surface now. Just decelerating a little bit more to stop from re-entering too fast or too high. We don't want to enter too steep and burn up, but we also don't want to bounce off. It's probably more important to worry about bouncing off. You might have also noticed I finally got around to managing my darn Kerbal Engineer HUD in the bottom of the screen there. Has a lot more information like Delta V. Hopefully it's not too intrusive, but it's very helpful to me so I can know what I'm doing. Gosh, my voice is already getting scratchy again. Let me have a drink quick. Have a drink as Bob admires the beauties of the sun. See, he knows it's beautiful. What he doesn't know is he's currently exposed to severe ultraviolet radiation, getting sunburns. Not quite. But still. Radiation is a factor that in real life astronauts have to be worried about, because space has a lot of radioactivity. Earth's magnetic field generally protects us from all the radiation that the sun produces. But when you're out in deep space, that's one of the things they really have to think about when they're heading to Mars. Solar flares, a lot of things that can produce a lot of radiation in interplanetary space where there's no big magnets to protect you. And the Earth is basically just a big magnet, and it's metal. Earth is pretty metal, dude. But yeah. Already, time accelerating to fall back to the surface. It's an uneventful re-entry. Just gonna time accelerate real quick to get where we need to be. And boom. Angling for re-entry. Definitely gonna want to close the magnetometer as well, otherwise it's gonna break off. We don't know if we'll land in a new biome. And we might want to collect some magnetometer science, so always want to preserve as many parts of the ship as we can, because maybe the Kerbals like it, but I do not like it when things explode on my spacecraft, especially while it is re-entering the atmosphere. Making one final burn to get onto some flatter ground, and either way, we may as well use up all this extra fuel we have on board. No reason to preserve it, because it'll probably explode anyways when we touch down. 2100 and 2050. 2 kilometers per second. Already well under the safe speed for re-entry of Kerbin's atmosphere. Everything is closed, everything is where it needs to be. Engines cutting out, and couple, and preparing for re-entry. Should start encountering some atmosphere soon. There you can see, that is our final landing point. Nothing we can do about that now, so hopefully we won't land in any craters or anything. But if we do, Bob is prepared. It's like Bear Grylls. Plus, he always makes sure to stuff plenty of snacks in his pockets. Ah, the beauties of re-entry. Disabling my HUD to take some screenshots. You're filming YouTube videos. There is a lot to think about. Always taking screenshots and things to use as thumbnails. Because you never know. Re-entry particle effects is one of my favorite mods on this list. It's very simple. It's not even performance impacting all that much. During 25 kilometers above the surface. Yes. A little bit more science, seeing what we can do. We already have most of this stuff. All of it, actually. But we need something to do while we're re-entering. I do wish that re-entering Kerbin's atmosphere was another biome, because when you think about it, being on fire is pretty special. Parachutes are deployed, we're safe. That stresses me out. Real shoots is... It goes really low before deploying. Its default height for deploying parachutes is 750 meters. That makes me very uncomfortable. Well, Bob ready to get out and do his science. At least a little, anyways. Ragdolling a little bit. Got all those surface experiment packs with him already, so he'll be able to do that when he wants. And planting his flag. Just making sure that the flag is there so he can have his bragging rights on display for all to see. Make sure Jeb doesn't claim the first orbit. And Bob also appears to have decided that this is not a very flat landing spot, so he's gonna go find somewhere flatter to put all this stuff. Usain bolting it up. Huh. I wonder how fast Usain Bolt can run in meters per second. I wouldn't know. It's like he's having a seizure over the landscape. It's kind of hard to commentate over a Kerbal running. Okay. Finally, found a suitably flat spot, and of course, one thing that I do not like about Kerbal inventory system, or Kerbal attachment system in this case, is the fact that by default it just drops things. It doesn't actually attach them to the ground automatically, which I guess would be useful for building spaceships on site, because you don't want them attached to the ground. But in the case of the surface experiment packs, it's not too helpful. Little bitty adjustments to make sure it's not out of alignment. Installing the solar grid, solar panel going up. Kerbal attachment system and Kerbal inventory system certainly are very fun mods to use. I don't use them too much, to be honest, because there's usually not really too much reason to. It's very cumbersome to incorporate larger containers that can actually carry larger parts in your design. So I haven't really found much reason to use it on very large scales. Surface Experiment Package is really the first mod that gives me a real reason to use it, but it is very creative. It's very fresh take on Kerbal science, so I do like those mods for that reason. It's very different from the vanilla game. So finishing up both the retro reflector experiment and the seismic experiment take between, I think the seismic experiment takes 75 days and the retro reflector takes 100. But either way, both of them gonna rake us in some extra science and give Bob something to do while the rescue team comes and finds him and his spacecraft to pick back up. Linking up the final two, linking up the first experiment, and now linking up the final experiment to the SEP Central Station, I believe it's called, calibrating the first one and observing the planetary seismology. Getting some extra science for being level 1. Technically, he was the very first Kerbal in orbit, because in the last episode I also sent him up so that he could set up this scientific experiment when he came back down. But, of course, like I've been saying, I lost that footage. But he's done here. Very happy with his work, giving a little jump for joy. And I hope you've been practicing your cardio, Bob. Never skip leg day, because now you have to run all the way back to your spacecraft. Whee! I could, of course, have recovered him from right there, but I wanted to be able to only click one button, so I got him back to the spacecraft, got him in there, and recover the vessel. Not really a ridiculous amount of science from this mission. We got enough to buy 2 90 science research points. We didn't quite have enough to buy one of those before, but now we have enough for 2. And the Final Frontier missions coming into play, getting some G-Force, acceleration ribbons, flag on Kerbin, planting a flag on Kerbin, getting to Kerbal orbit, always fun. He is now a very decorated Kerbal. And now, Bob has to decide where to spend all that wonderful science that he just collected. Or rather, I have to decide that. A few new pieces that I haven't seen yet containing liquid hydrogen. I think those are from interstellar technology. Yeah, we'll be using that eventually to reach that star, but that's in the late stages of this game. right now, we're focused on this one. What to do, what to do. It's like a kid in a candy store, Bob is. All these wonderful scientific parts. I don't know where the trusses are coming from. Transportation of fuel power. It seems like something that would be with one of the mods that has Kerbal's, like, Kerbal transport something. I don't remember what mod it is. But in the end, yeah, I don't believe I installed that mod. I don't know what it is. In the end, Bob ended up choosing space exploration as his first choice, getting a little bit of extra scientific bits for fun, and also rover wheels, which might prove useful in the future, and of course propulsion systems as well, so we can start getting some itty-bitty probes on board with us. Researched. And that'll actually be about it for this episode. Do make sure to leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.